The Last Train, Part 1. The rain was falling hard on the old city of Murfield when Sam opened his eyes that morning. He did not know it yet, but this was going to be the strangest day of his life. He was a simple man. He worked at a small bookshop near the river. He lived alone in a tiny flat above a bakery. He had no family left. His mother had died 2 years ago, and his father had left when Sam was just a boy. Life was quiet for Sam, and he liked it that way. But life does not always care about what a person likes. Sam got out of bed and made himself a cup of tea. The rain made the window look like it was crying. He stood there for a moment, watching the water run down the glass. Then he got dressed, put on his old brown coat, and walked down the stairs. The smell of fresh bread came from the bakery below. Mrs. Holt, the baker, waved at him from behind the counter. She was a short woman with white hair and a kind face. She always gave Sam a free roll in the morning. "Morning, Sam," she said. "Terrible weather today." "Yes," Sam said, "but the bread smells good." She smiled and handed him a warm roll wrapped in paper. He thanked her and stepped outside into the rain. The streets were mostly empty. A few people hurried past with umbrellas. A dog sat under a shop roof, looking sad and wet. Sam walked along the narrow road toward the bookshop. It was a 10-minute walk. He did it every day, rain or shine. He liked the walk. It gave him time to think. When he reached the bookshop, he noticed something strange. The door was already open. Sam always locked it when he left the night before. He was very careful about that. He stood at the door and looked inside. Everything seemed normal. The shelves were full of books. The counter was clean. The old clock on the wall was ticking as usual. But something felt wrong. It was a feeling in his stomach, like when you know someone is watching you, but you cannot see them. Sam stepped inside slowly. He looked behind the counter. He checked the back room. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. But on the counter, right in the middle, there was a small white envelope. It had no name on it, no stamp, no address, just a plain white envelope. Sam picked it up and opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper with a message written in neat handwriting. It said, "Take the last train from Platform 9 tonight. Do not be late. Your life depends on it." Sam read the message 3 times. Then he laughed. It had to be a joke. Someone was playing a trick on him. Maybe it was Danny, his old school friend who sometimes visited the shop. Danny loved jokes. Sam put the note in his pocket and started his day. He arranged books on the shelves. He helped a few customers. He ate his lunch, a simple sandwich, at the counter. But all day long, the notes stayed in his mind. He kept touching his pocket, feeling the paper through the cloth. By the time evening came, the rain had stopped. The sky was dark and full of clouds. Sam closed the shop and stood outside for a moment. He looked down the street toward the train station. It was about a 15-minute walk from the shop. Sam had not taken a train in months. He had no reason to. He had nowhere to go. But the note said his life depended on it. Of course, it was probably nothing, a silly joke. But what if it was not? Sam started walking toward the station. He told himself he was just going to look. He would check Platform 9, see that nothing was there, and then go home. That was all, just a quick look. His shoes made soft sounds on the wet road. The streetlights made the puddles glow orange. The air smelt fresh and clean after the rain. The station was old. It had been built more than 100 years ago. The walls were made of dark stone, and the roof was high with iron beams. Most of the platforms were empty at this hour. A few people sat on benches, waiting for their trains. Sam walked past them, looking for Platform 9. He found it at the far end of the station. It was darker here. The lights were dim. There was no one around. A sign on the wall said Platform 9 in faded letters. Sam stood on the platform and waited. He checked his watch. It was almost 10 o'clock. He did not even know what time the last train was supposed to come. He looked down the tracks. They disappear into the darkness. The only sound was the distant hum of the city and the drip of water from the roof. Then he heard it. A low rumble. The tracks began to shake slightly. Sam took a step back. A light appeared far down the tunnel. It grew brighter and brighter. The rumble became a roar, and then the train came. It was unlike any train Sam had ever seen. It was old, very old, like something from another time. The outside was dark green, almost black. The windows glowed with a warm golden light. Steam rose from underneath. The train slowed down and stopped right in front of Sam with a loud hiss. The doors opened. Sam looked inside. The train was empty. The seats were covered in red cloth. The floor was made of dark wood. There were small lamps on the walls that gave off a soft yellow light. It looked beautiful and strange at the same time. Sam felt his heart beating fast. Every part of his mind told him to turn around and go home. This was not normal. This was not safe. But something else, something deeper inside him, told him to get on the train. He thought about his life, his empty flat, his quiet days, his loneliness. What was he afraid of losing? He had nothing to lose. Sam took a deep breath and stepped onto the train. The moment his foot touched the floor, the doors closed behind him. He turned around quickly, but the doors were shut tight. The train began to move. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. The platform disappeared. The station disappeared. The city disappeared. Sam was alone on a train, going somewhere he did not know. He sat down on one of the red seats. The cloth was soft and warm. He looked out the window, but all he could see was darkness. No lights, no buildings, no trees, just black. The train moved smoothly, like it was floating on air. Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out the note. He read it again. "Take the last train from Platform 9 tonight. Do not be late. Your life depends on it." He turned the paper over. On the back, in the same neat handwriting, there was something he had not noticed before. It said, "She is waiting for you." Sam felt a chill run down his back. Who was waiting for him? And where was this train taking him? He put the note back in his pocket and sat very still. The train kept moving through the darkness, and Sam, for the first time in a very long time, felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt alive. The train moved through the darkness for what felt like hours. Sam sat in his red seat and watched the black window. There was nothing to see. No stars, no moon, no land. Just endless dark. The small lamps on the walls flickered sometimes, making shadows dance across the ceiling. The only sound was the soft rhythm of the train on the tracks. It was a gentle sound, almost like a heartbeat. Sam tried the doors at both ends of the car. They were locked. He tried to open a window. It would not move. He was trapped, but strangely, he did not feel afraid. There was a warmth inside the train that made him feel calm. It was like being wrapped in a blanket on a cold night. He sat back down and closed his eyes. His mind drifted to old memories. He thought about his mother. She used to tell him stories before bed. Stories about faraway lands, about brave people who went on great journeys. She always said that the best adventures begin when you stop being afraid. Sam must have fallen asleep because when he opened his eyes, the train was slowing down. He sat up quickly and looked out the window. There was light now, a soft, golden light, like early morning. The darkness was gone. Outside, he could see green hills rolling into the distance. There were tall trees with wide branches and flowers of every color growing along the tracks. A river sparkled in the sunlight. Birds flew in circles above the water. It was the most beautiful place Sam had ever seen. The train stopped with a gentle hiss. The doors opened. Sam stood up and walked to the door. He looked outside. There was a small station, much smaller than the one in Muirfield. It had a wooden platform and a little roof covered in climbing roses. A sign hung from the roof. It said, "Linden Hollow," in green letters. Sam had never heard of such a place. He stepped off the train, and the moment he did, the doors closed. The train began to move again. Sam spun around and watched it go. It picked up speed quickly and disappeared around a bend in the tracks. He was alone. The air here was different. It was warm and sweet, like the air near a garden in summer. Sam stood on the platform and looked around. There was a narrow path leading away from the station into the trees. There was nothing else. No road, no buildings, no people. Just the path and the trees and the sound of birds. Sam had no choice. He started walking. The path was soft under his feet, made of packed earth and small stones. The trees on either side were tall and old. Their branches reached across the path and touched each other, making a green roof above his head. Sunlight came through in small patches, making bright spots on the ground. Sam walked for about 20 minutes before he saw anything. A small stone cottage with a brown roof and a red door. Smoke came from the chimney. There was a garden in front, with vegetables and flowers growing together. A wooden fence went around the garden. A cat sat on the fence, watching Sam with big green eyes. Sam stopped and stared at the cottage. Someone lived here. Maybe this was where the note wanted him to go. Maybe the person who was waiting for him was inside. He opened the garden gate and walked to the red door. He raised his hand to knock, but before he could, the door opened. A woman stood there. She was about the same age as Sam, maybe 30 or 31. She had dark hair that fell to her shoulders and brown eyes that looked both happy and sad at the same time. She wore a simple blue dress and no shoes. She looked at Sam like she had been expecting him. "You came," she said. Her voice was soft and clear. "I got the note," Sam said. He did not know what else to say. "I know," she said. "Please come in." Sam followed her inside. The cottage was small but warm. There was a fire burning in a stone fireplace. A wooden table sat in the middle of the room with 2 chairs. There were books everywhere, on shelves, on the floor, stacked on the windowsill. A pot of soup was cooking over the fire. The whole place smelled like home, like a place where someone had lived and loved for a long time. "Sit down," the woman said. "You must be tired." Sam sat in one of the chairs. The woman poured him a cup of tea from a pot on the table. He took it and held it in both hands. The warmth felt good. "Who are you?" Sam asked. "My name is Alara," she said. She sat in the other chair and looked at him. "And I need your help." "My help? I do not even know where I am." "You are in Linden Hollow," Alara said. "It is a place that exists between the places you know. The train only comes for those who are chosen." Sam shook his head. "Chosen for what?" Alara was quiet for a moment. She looked at the fire. The flames moved slowly, casting warm light on her face. Then she spoke again. "There is something wrong with this place, Sam. Linden Hollow is dying. The river is getting smaller every day. The flowers are losing their color. The birds are leaving. Something is taking the life out of this land, and I cannot stop it alone." "What is taking it?" Sam asked. "There is a place in the mountains to the north," Alara said. "A tower. It has been there for as long as anyone can remember. Inside the tower, there is something old and powerful. It used to protect this land. It kept everything alive and growing. But something happened. The tower went dark. The power stopped flowing. And ever since then, everything has been getting worse. What happened to the tower? I have tried to go there, but I cannot. The path to the tower is blocked. There are dangers along the way, strange creatures that come out at night. The land itself fights against anyone who tries to reach it. I have tried 3 times. Each time, I was forced to turn back. Sam looked at her. And you think I can do it? I am just a man who works in a bookshop. I am nobody special. Alara smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was also kind. The train chose you, Sam. It does not make mistakes. There is something inside you that you do not see yet. Something that this land needs. Sam wanted to laugh. The whole thing sounded like one of his mother's bedtime stories. Towers and magical lands and chosen ones. But he could not laugh, because the tea in his hands was real. The fire was real. The woman sitting in front of him was real. And the beauty he had seen outside, the green hills and the river and the flowers, that was real too. And if it was all dying, that mattered. How far is the tower? Sam asked. 3 days on foot, Alara said, through the forest, across the valley, and up into the mountains. And what do I do when I get there? I do not know, Alara said honestly. No one has been inside the tower in many years, but I believe the answer is there. I believe you will know what to do when you see it. Sam drank his tea slowly. He thought about everything she had said. He thought about his life back in Muirfield, his empty flat, his quiet shop, his lonely evenings. He thought about the note in his pocket. His life depended on it. Maybe this was what the note meant, not that he would die if he did not come, but that he was not really living before. I will go, Sam said. Alara's eyes filled with something bright. Relief, maybe, or hope. Thank you, she whispered. She stood up and went to a shelf in the corner. She came back with a small leather bag. Inside, there was some food, a water bottle, a knife, and a folded piece of cloth that turned out to be a map. It was hand-drawn, with careful lines showing the forest, the valley, the mountains, and the tower. A red dot marked where the cottage was. A black dot marked the tower. Take this, Alara said. Follow the path north through the forest. Stay on the path. Do not leave it, no matter what you hear. The forest can play tricks on you. It can make you see things that are not there. It can make you hear voices. Ignore them. Keep walking. Sam took the bag and put it over his shoulder. He stood up and looked at Alara. Will you be here when I come back? I will be here, she said. I will wait for you. Sam nodded. He walked to the door and opened it. The sun was still shining. The cat on the fence looked at him again. The path continued past the cottage and went north into a darker part of the forest. Sam took a deep breath. He did not feel ready, but he remembered what his mother always said. The best adventures begin when you stop being afraid. He stepped off the porch and started walking toward the dark trees. The forest was nothing like what Sam had seen before. Near the cottage, the trees had been friendly. They had wide branches and green leaves that let the sunlight through. But as Sam walked deeper along the path, the trees changed. They grew taller and closer together. Their trunks were thick and twisted, like old hands reaching out of the ground. The leaves above were so thick that almost no light came through. The air became cool and damp. The sounds of birds faded away and were replaced by silence. A heavy, deep silence that pressed against Sam's ears. He kept walking. The path was narrow now, barely wide enough for one person. Roots crossed over it like snakes. Sam had to watch where he put his feet. He thought about what Alara had told him. Stay on the path. Do not leave it. He held the leather bag tight against his side and moved forward. After about an hour, he heard something. A voice. It was faint, coming from somewhere to his left, deep inside the trees. It sounded like a child crying. Sam stopped and listened. The crying was soft and sad. It pulled at his heart. Every part of him wanted to step off the path and find the child. But he remembered Ilara's words. The forest plays tricks. It makes you hear things. He took a breath and kept walking. The crying followed him for a while, moving through the trees, always staying just out of sight. Then it stopped, and the silence came back. The path began to go downhill. The ground became softer, almost wet. Sam could smell water, like a river or a pond nearby. The trees here were covered in thick green moss. Some of them had fallen over, their roots sticking up into the air like broken fingers. Sam climbed over one of the fallen trees and nearly slipped on the wet wood. He caught himself and kept going. Then he saw something that made him stop completely. There was a man standing in the middle of the path. He was tall and thin, wearing clothes that looked very old. A long, dark coat with silver buttons. His face was pale, almost white, and his eyes were dark. He stood perfectly still, like a statue. He was looking right at Sam. Sam's heart began to beat faster. "Hello?" he said. His voice sounded small in the big forest. The man did not answer. He just stood there, watching. Sam took a step forward. The man did not move. Sam took another step. Still, nothing. Then, just as Sam was about to speak again, the man smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made the back of your neck feel cold. "You should not be here," the man said. His voice was low and smooth, like oil on water. "I am just passing through," Sam said. He tried to sound brave, but his voice shook a little. "No one passes through this forest," the man said. "Not anymore. Turn back. Go home." "I cannot," Sam said. "I have to reach the tower." The man's smile disappeared. "The tower is not for you. It is not for anyone. Turn back now, and you will live. Keep going, and you will not." Sam felt fear spreading through his body like cold water. But he also felt something else, a small warm feeling in his chest, like a tiny flame that would not go out. He thought about Alara, waiting in her cottage. He thought about the dying flowers and the shrinking river. He thought about the note that said his life depended on it. "I am going to the tower," Sam said again, this time with more strength in his voice. The man stared at him for a long moment. Then something strange happened. His body began to change. His skin turned gray. His clothes seemed to melt into his body. His shape became less like a man and more like smoke. In a few seconds, he was gone. There was nothing left but a faint dark mist that blew away in the wind. Sam stood there, his heart pounding. It had been a trick. The forest had tried to scare him, and it had almost worked. Sam wiped the sweat from his face and kept walking. The path went on and on. Hours passed. He ate some of the bread Alara had packed and drank some water. The forest slowly began to thin out. The trees became smaller and farther apart. More light came through, and then, suddenly, the forest ended. Sam stepped out onto a wide open valley. It was enormous. Green grass stretched in every direction. In the middle of the valley, there was a lake. The water was still and clear, reflecting the sky like a mirror. On the far side of the valley, Sam could see the mountains. They were tall and dark, with white snow on their tops. And there, on the highest peak, he could see something. A tower. It was thin and black, like a needle pointing at the sky. Even from this far away, Sam could feel something coming from it. A pull, like a magnet. It was calling to him. Sam started walking across the valley. The grass was tall and soft. Small blue flowers grew everywhere. Butterflies flew around his head. It was peaceful and beautiful. But Sam noticed something that Alara had warned him about. The grass near the edges of the valley was brown and dry. The flowers there had lost their color. They were gray, like ash. The dying was spreading. It was moving inward from the edges, slowly eating the valley alive. He reached the lake by late afternoon. The sun was getting lower in the sky, turning everything gold and orange. Sam knelt by the water and drank. It was the coldest, cleanest water he had ever tasted. He filled his bottle and sat down on a rock to rest. His legs were tired, his feet were sore. He was not used to walking so much. Back in Mirfield, the longest walk he took was to the bookshop and back. As he sat there, he noticed something in the water. At first, he thought it was a fish, but it was not moving like a fish. It was glowing, a soft blue light deep under the surface. Sam leaned forward and looked closer. The light moved slowly, like it was breathing. It came up toward the surface, and Sam could see that it was not a fish at all. It was a shape that looked like a woman. She was made entirely of light, blue and white, like the sky at dawn. She floated just below the surface, her eyes closed, her hair moving in the water, like silk. Sam reached his hand toward the water without thinking. His fingers touched the surface. The moment they did, the woman opened her eyes. They were bright, burning white, and a voice filled Sam's head. Not his ears, his head. It was like the voice was coming from inside him. "You carry the old blood," the voice said. "That is why the train came for you." "What do you mean?" Sam whispered. "Your mother's mother's mother. She was born here, in Linden Hollow. She was a keeper of the tower. The power runs in your family. It runs in you." His mother had never told him anything like this. She had told him stories, yes, but she never said they were real. She never said they were about a real place. "The tower went dark because the last keeper died," the voice continued. "There was no one left to keep the flame alive. But the blood survives. You are the last one, Sam. You are the only one who can enter the tower and light the flame again." "How?" Sam asked. "I do not know how to do anything like that." "You will know," the voice said. "When the time comes, you will know. But be warned. The tower is guarded. When the flame died, something else moved in. Something cold, something hungry. It feeds on the life of this land. It will not let you reach the flame without a fight." The light began to sink back down into the water. The woman's shape faded. The glow became dimmer and dimmer until it was gone. Sam sat back on his rock and tried to understand what had just happened. His grandmother was from this place. He carried the blood of the tower keepers. It sounded impossible, but everything that had happened since he stepped on that train was impossible. Sam looked at the tower on the mountain. It was darker now, against the evening sky. He could see no lights in it, no sign of life, just a tall black shape against the clouds. Tomorrow, he would start climbing. Tomorrow, he would find out what was inside. He found a spot near the lake where the grass was thick and soft. He lay down and used his bag as a pillow. The stars came out one by one. They were brighter here than in Mirfield. Sam could see thousands of them, covering the sky like spilled diamonds. He thought about his mother. Had she known about this place? Had she known what he was? He wished she was here. He closed his eyes and let the sound of the water and the wind carry him to sleep. In his dreams, he saw the tower. He saw a flame burning inside it, bright and golden, and he saw a shadow standing between him and the flame. A shadow with no face and no shape, just darkness, pure, cold darkness. Sam woke up before the sun. The sky was gray and pink at the edges. The mountains stood before him, tall and waiting. He ate the last of his bread, drank some water, and stood up. His body was stiff and sore, but his mind was clear. He knew what he had to do. He picked up his bag and started walking toward the mountains. The mountains were harder than Sam expected. The ground changed from soft grass to rough stone within the first hour. The path, if it could even be called a path, was nothing more than a thin line of flat rocks between boulders. Sam had to use his hands to climb in some places. His fingers scraped against the cold stone. His legs burned with the effort. The air grew thinner as he went higher, and he had to stop often to catch his breath. By midday, he was high enough to look back over the valley. It was beautiful from up here. The lake shone like a coin in the sun. The green grass spread out in every direction. But even from this height, Sam could see the brown edges, the death creeping inward. It made him move faster. The wind picked up as he climbed. It was cold and sharp, cutting through his old brown coat like it was made of paper. Sam pulled the coat tighter around himself and kept going. He thought about warm things, the fire in Alara's cottage, the tea she had given him, the smell of bread from Mrs. Holt's bakery. These thoughts kept him warm enough to continue. In the afternoon, the sky began to change. Clouds rolled in from the north, thick and dark. They moved fast like they were being pushed by an angry hand. The wind grew stronger. Sam could feel the first drops of rain on his face. He needed to find shelter. He looked around and saw a crack in the rock face to his right. It was just big enough for a person to fit inside. He squeezed in and sat down, pulling his bag close. The storm hit hard. Rain poured down in sheets. Lightning cracked across the sky, turning everything white for a second before the darkness came back. Thunder shook the mountains so hard that Sam could feel it in his bones. He sat in his little crack in the rock and waited. There was nothing else he could do. While he waited, he pulled out the map Alara had given him. He studied it in the flashes of lightning. The tower was at the very top of the highest peak. He was maybe halfway up. If the storm passed soon, he could reach the tower by nightfall. If it did not pass, he would have to wait until morning. The storm lasted for 2 hours. When it finally stopped, the sky was still gray, but the rain was gone. Sam crawled out of his shelter. The rocks were wet and slippery now. He had to move even more carefully than before. Each step was a risk. One wrong move, and he could fall. He did not look down. He kept his eyes on the rocks in front of him, and moved one step at a time. As the sun began to set behind the clouds, Sam reached a flat area near the top of the mountain. It was like a small field made of stone, and there, right in the middle of it, stood the tower. Up close, it was bigger than it had looked from below. It was made of smooth black stone that seemed to eat the light around it. There were no windows except at the very top, where Sam could see a faint opening. The door at the base was tall and narrow, made of dark metal. There were no handles, no locks, no markings of any kind, just a flat surface of cold metal. Sam walked up to the door and put his hand on it. The metal was ice cold, so cold that it hurt to touch. He pulled his hand back. Then he remembered what the woman in the lake had told him. He carried the old blood. He was a keeper. He put his hand on the door again, this time pressing firmly. The cold bit into his skin, but he did not pull away. He pressed harder. And then he felt it. A warmth. It started in his chest and moved down his arm, through his hand, and into the metal. The door began to shake. A low sound, like a deep bell, came from inside the tower. And then the door opened. Inside, it was dark, completely dark. Sam could not see his hand in front of his face. He stepped inside, and the door closed behind him with a heavy sound. He stood in the darkness and waited for his eyes to change. Slowly, very slowly, he began to see shapes. There was a staircase. It went up in a spiral, following the inside wall of the tower. The stairs were made of the same black stone as the walls. They were narrow and steep. Sam started climbing. The stairs went on, turning in circles. He counted the steps at first, but lost count after 200. His legs screamed at him to stop, but he did not. He kept going, one step at a time. The darkness around him was thick and heavy, like something alive. He could feel it pressing against him, trying to slow him down. It was the cold thing the lake woman had warned him about. The hungry thing that had moved into the tower. About halfway up, the temperature dropped suddenly. Sam's breath came out in white clouds. Ice began to form on the walls. The stairs became slippery. And then Sam heard something that made his blood freeze. A sound. Not a voice. Not an animal. Something else. A deep, slow breathing. Like something enormous was sleeping nearby, or waking up. Sam kept climbing. The breathing got louder, closer. He could feel it now, not just hear it. Cold air blew against his face with each breath. It smelled old and rotten, like something that had been dead for a very long time. Sam's hands were shaking, his whole body was shaking, but he did not stop. He reached a landing, a flat space in the middle of the staircase, and there, blocking the way up, was something Sam could not fully see. It was big. It filled the entire space from wall to wall. It was made of darkness itself, like a shadow that had become solid. 2 points of cold blue light glowed where its eyes should be. They looked at Sam with a hunger that he could feel in his stomach. "You do not belong here," the thing said. Its voice was like grinding stones. It came from everywhere at once. "This tower is mine now. The flame is dead. The keepers are gone. Go back." Every muscle in his body screamed at him to turn around and go back down the stairs. But he stood still. He thought about everything that had led him to this moment. The note, the train, Ilara, the dying land, the woman in the lake who said he was the last one. If he turned back now, everything would die. The valley, the lake, the flowers, the birds, Ilara, all of it would be gone. "No," Sam said. His voice was small, but it did not shake. The shadow moved. It surged forward like a wave. The cold hit Sam like a wall of ice. It knocked him backward. He hit the stone wall hard and fell to his knees. Pain shot through his back and his legs. The blue eyes were right in front of him now, burning with cold light. "You are nothing," the shadow said. "A small man from a small world. You have no power. You have no strength. You are empty." Sam felt the words sink into him like knives. They cut at everything he believed about himself. He was nothing. He was just a man who worked in a bookshop. The shadow was right. What was he doing here? What made him think he could fight something like this? Then, in the deepest part of the cold, Sam felt something. That small, warm feeling in his chest. The same feeling he had felt in the forest when the man tried to scare him. The same warmth that had opened the tower door. It was small, but it was there, and it was growing. Sam closed his eyes. He stopped fighting the cold. He stopped trying to be brave. Instead, he just let himself feel. He felt the warmth in his chest. He followed it with his mind, like following a thread in the dark. And he found something at the end of it. A memory. His mother, sitting on the edge of his bed when he was a boy. She was holding his hand. Her face was soft in the lamplight. And she was saying something. "You are more than you think, Sam. You are so much more." The warmth exploded. It came out of Sam like light from a broken window. It filled the landing. It pushed against the shadow. The creature screamed. Not a human scream. A sound like breaking glass and tearing metal all at once. The blue eyes flickered. The shadow pulled back, shrinking, getting smaller. Sam stood up. He was glowing. Not brightly, just a faint golden light around his skin. He could feel the warmth everywhere now. In his hands, in his face, in his feet. It was not magic, he realized. It was him. It was who he was. It was the blood of the keepers, waking up after sleeping for so many years. He walked forward. The shadow screamed again and pushed against him. The cold hit him, but the warmth held. Step by step, Sam moved through the shadow. It tore at him, tried to pull him apart, tried to freeze him solid. But the light held. Sam kept walking. He reached the stairs on the other side and started climbing again. Behind him, The shadow howled, but it did not follow. The light was too strong. Sam climbed the last stretch of stairs. His body was exhausted. His mind was barely holding on, but the warmth kept him going. One step, then another, until finally he reached the top. The top of the tower was a single round room. The walls were made of the same black stone, but here they were covered in carvings. Hundreds of carvings, cut deep into the rock. They showed trees and rivers and mountains. They showed people working the land, planting seeds, building homes. They showed the tower itself, with a bright flame burning at its top, sending light across the whole land. And they showed the keepers, men and women standing with their hands raised, their bodies glowing with the same golden light that Sam could feel inside himself. In the center of the room there was a stone pillar. It was about waist high and as wide as a table. On top of the pillar there was a bowl, a simple stone bowl, cracked and dry. This was where the flame had once burned. Sam could tell because the inside of the bowl was black with old burn marks. He walked to it slowly and put his hands on the edge. The stone was cold. Whatever fire had once burned here had been gone for a very long time. Sam stood there and did not know what to do. The woman in the lake had said he would know when the time came, but he did not know. He was just a man with warm hands and a glowing feeling in his chest. He was not a keeper. He had no training, no knowledge, no instructions. He looked around the room, hoping to find something, a book, a sign, a message carved into the wall. But the carvings only showed pictures. They did not give directions. He looked at his hands. They were still glowing faintly. The warmth was still there, steady and patient, like it was waiting for something. Sam took a deep breath. Maybe that was it. Maybe the flame was not something you created with tools or knowledge. Maybe the flame was something you gave, something from inside. Sam placed both hands flat inside the stone bowl. The surface was rough and cold against his skin. He closed his eyes and focused on the warmth in his chest. He thought about everything he cared about. He thought about his mother, her kind eyes and soft voice. He thought about the bookshop and the way sunlight came through the window in the afternoon. He thought about Mrs. Holt and her warm bread. He thought about Alara, waiting in her cottage, hoping he would come back. He thought about the green valley and the clear lake and the bright flowers. He thought about every small, beautiful thing in his life. The warmth grew. It moved from his chest into his arms, then into his hands. His fingers tingled. The bowl began to warm under his palms. Then it began to glow, a faint orange light, like the first spark of a fire. Sam pressed harder. He gave more. He gave everything, every memory, every feeling, every piece of love he had ever known. He poured it all into the bowl. The spark grew into a flame. It was small at first, no bigger than a candle, so bright that Sam had to close his eyes even tighter. The flame rose higher. It turned from orange to gold, then from gold to white. The heat filled the room. The cold that had lived in the tower for so long began to melt. Sam could feel the darkness pulling away, running from the light like water running from a fire. Below him, deep in the tower, the shadows screamed. It was a terrible sound, full of rage and pain. The whole tower shook. Pieces of stone fell from the ceiling. The floor cracked under Sam's feet. But he did not move. He kept his hands in the bowl and kept giving. The flame grew taller and taller until it reached the ceiling. Then it broke through. It shot upward through the opening at the top of the tower and into the sky. Sam opened his eyes and looked up. The flame was a pillar of golden light, reaching from the tower into the clouds. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The sky around it turned from gray to blue. The clouds broke apart and disappeared. Sunlight, real sunlight, poured down over the mountains. Sam could feel the land responding. He could feel it like a heartbeat under his feet. The valley was waking up. The river was filling. The flowers were opening. Life was coming back. The shaking stopped. The shadow screams faded to nothing. And then there was silence. A good silence. A peaceful silence. The flame in the bowl settled down. It was no longer a pillar shooting into the sky. It was a steady, gentle fire, burning bright and warm in the stone bowl. It did not need fuel. It did not need wood or oil. It burned on its own, fed by the same power that ran through Sam's blood. Sam took his hands out of the bowl. The flame kept burning. He stood back and looked at it. His body was exhausted. Every bone and muscle ached. His hands were red and tingling, but his heart was full, fuller than it had ever been. He had actually done it. He turned and looked at the carvings on the wall. In the light of the new flame, they seemed to move. The trees swayed, the rivers flowed, the people smiled. It was like the walls were alive, celebrating the return of the fire. Sam put his hand on one of the carvings. It was warm now. The whole tower was warm. Sam made his way back down the stairs. It was easier going down. The darkness was gone. The stairs were lit by a soft golden glow that came from the walls themselves. The landing where the shadow had been was empty. There was no trace of it. No cold, no darkness, no smell of death. Just clean, warm air and light. He walked out of the tower. The metal door was open, letting sunlight flood in. Sam stepped outside and stopped. The world had changed. The mountains, which had been dark and gray, were now covered in green. Grass and small flowers grew between the rocks. The air was warm and sweet. Birds flew in circles above the tower, singing songs that echoed off the stone. Sam could see the valley below. The brown edges were gone. Everything was green and alive. Sam started the long walk down the mountain. His legs were weak and his body was tired, but the path seemed easier now. The rocks were dry, and small plants grew in the cracks. It was like the mountain itself was helping him, making the way smooth and safe. By the time he reached the valley, the sun was low in the sky, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. He walked across the valley. The grass was tall and green. The blue flowers were brighter than before, their petals open wide. The lake sparkled in the evening light. Sam wanted to stop and rest, but something pulled him forward. Alara. He wanted to see her. He wanted to tell her it was done. He walked through the forest. It was different now. The trees were no longer twisted and dark. Their branches were full of green leaves. Sunlight came through in wide beams. Birds sang in the branches. Small animals moved in the bushes. The path was wide and clear. The forest was alive again. By the time Sam saw the cottage, it was nearly dark. Smoke still rose from the chimney. The garden was more colorful than before. The flowers had opened wider, and new ones had appeared. Red and yellow and purple. The cat was still on the fence. It looked at Sam and meowed. The red door opened before Sam could knock. Alara stood there. Her eyes were bright and wet. She looked at Sam and smiled. It was not a sad smile this time. It was a full, real, happy smile that made her whole face light up. "You did it," she said. "I did it," Sam said. She stepped forward and put her arms around him. Sam held her. He was dirty and tired and his clothes were torn. But standing there, in front of that small cottage, with the smell of soup and flowers and warm earth around them, Sam felt something he had not felt in years. He felt like he was home. They went inside and sat by the fire. Alara made tea and soup, and they ate together. Sam told her everything: the forest, the shadow man, the lake woman, the climb, the tower, the flame. She listened to every word, her eyes wide and bright. When he was done, she was quiet for a moment. "Will you stay?" she asked softly. Sam looked at her. He thought about Muirfield, the bookshop, his empty flat, the rain on the window. Then he looked at Alara, her warm eyes, her kind face, the cottage with its books and fire and garden. He thought about the valley and the lake and the mountains. He thought about the flame burning in the tower, steady and strong. "Yes," he said, "I will stay." Alara took his hand. Her fingers were warm. Sam looked at the fire and felt the warmth in his chest. It was still there. It would always be there. He had come to this place as a lonely man with nothing to lose. He was leaving that old life behind, not because it was bad, but because he had found something better. He had found a place where he mattered, a place where he belonged. Outside, the stars came out. They filled the sky from edge to edge, brighter than Sam had ever seen them. The flame on top of the tower glowed in the distance, a small golden point of light on the mountaintop. It would burn for a long time, for as long as there was love to feed it. And in a small stone cottage in a hidden land, two people sat by a fire, drinking tea, holding hands, and talking quietly about tomorrow. For the first time in his life, Sam was not afraid of what came next. For the first time, he was looking forward to it.